Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. And to the second last, the last, actually, it's the last, sorry, it is the actual last rating video I have to do right now. Then I can focus on recording other videos, which I should do at some point. I might take like a day or so, depending on when I finally finish uh, Trails to Azure. Got a decent chunk of the way through the finale on the latest session, but regardless, it's time for me to talk about a less happy topic. And that topic, of course, is the fact that you can't hear the goddamn music, because of course you can't. Let's try this again. Anyways, so yes, it's time for me to rate Trails from Zero. I'm gonna go ahead and just say this. I don't think Trails from Zero is that good. But in all honesty, I do actually think this is the worst of the Trails games. By far. Like, it's not even a goddamn competition. Like, we're talking over 30 points separating between what I consider to be the bottom tier. And to be blunt, I can at least say that I actually really enjoy the story of Sky 3. Yeah, I can't say that as much with this one. I really can't. So, it took me 18 sessions to finally get through this thing. And it... I have no desire to replay this game ever again. Is honestly the long and the short of it. And if I can explain myself a little bit on that one. There were plenty of times throughout this playthrough where I felt like I was just going through as much of the game as I could, just to get it over with. By total contrast, Azure here has already had multiple times where I have actually lost track of time playing this. That's a good sign. Now, a lot of the things that plague Zero do also plague Azure big time. There's still a lot of there's the status effect fetish. There's the pacing, the padding in the story, the padding in the gameplay, stuff like that, as we'll get into. But the problem with Zero specifically, is that there's nothing to tie me in. Azure, once it got there, just had the most impressive story beats. I mean, seriously, once you hit the mirror dungeon in Azure, you know what I'm talking about if you've played the game. Like, once you hit... Well, let me put it this way. Once you hit Croiss's speech, his big speech, after he jumps the gun like 7 times. Again, that's something to get into in an Azure. Or the game really ramps up, and it starts to get very engaging. I almost feel like this is an end-song, but whatever. But regardless, I mean, Trails from Zero has an okay story, But a plus 35 from me on the story axis, especially in a story-heaven driven game from like this, is not good, in my opinion. I know some people will say, "Oh no, that is good." The problem is that that's mostly on the presentation side of things, as you will see, and not so much about the story itself being good. So, as ever, let's begin. So, 18 sessions, turbo mode, blah 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 blah. Story ended overall with a net plus 35. That's bad. For Trails Fair, that is bad for a story score to sink that low. This is the lowest final story score of the whole series. And spoilers, Azure is in no threat of being this low at all. In fact, to be blunt, as soon as the story gains like 7 more positives, its net score will be more than double this. Yeah. So, yeah. So, triple positive for humor. Specifically, once the humor took a while to start making me laugh, but once it got there, I was laughing, right? In fact, the first scene that really cemented a humor positive for me, and really codified the humor plus, the first humor plus, was when Nurse Martha was like, because Randy is, flirting with Fila. I wrote it down. Cool. When Randy is flirting with Fila, and the head nurse Martha comes in and it looks at Fila like, "You're gonna have to reschedule because you got crap to do." Oh, right. And then turns to Randy and be like, "Although I'm available to go." And then Randy's just like, I better double check my schedule too. Lloyd, you're up. That made me laugh. And Lloyd's just like, "I am so sorry for him." And Martha's just like, don't worry about it. Although, if Martha's sprite is anything to go by, she looks damn good. Good for her age. Whatever that age may be. And then there was Tio. Okay, this one I might be a little bit cheating with, but I do still stand behind that even Zero earns this triple humor positive. Because there was a point in which it's after Lloyd and Ellie's heart-to-heart, which we'll get to. Lloyd is like, "Oh yeah, me and Ellie being a romantic couple, yeah, that's never gonna happen. It'll never happen. It's impossible." And Ellie's just kind of looking at him like, "The fuck?" And then Tio's just quietly saying, like, Randy's just like, "Oh, you idiot," and then Tio just quietly like says in her inner thoughts, "You stepped on a landmine." And it was right after I quoted Olivier, the scene in Sky 2 when Olivier tells Joshua he just stepped on a landmine. He's like, where Olivier's just like, "You have stepped on a landmine, my friend." And I'm just like, and to Lloyd, I'm like, to quote Olivier, "Hey there, Lloyd, you've just stepped on a landmine." And then Tio said it right after. It was literally the next dialogue box after I had made that joke. Oh, that was so good. I was like, yes! Oh, it made me burst out laughing, and I was like, yes! And then the intermission chapter. That just cemented the third for me. Double positive for the sprite work, as I was hinting at with the Nurse Martha stuff. There's good visual storytelling, good doodad usage, and good music direction. The external continuity is worth 2 positives, as it's a nice bonus if you know, it's a nice bonus, and if you don't, you're not lost, and that's good. Which is honestly one of the things that I think kind of holds Azure back from being a triple positive on the external continuity. Because there's a lot of great external continuity, but yeah. World building, as per the usual standard. Good animations, 2 positives worthy, particularly with the dancing during the Ark and Seal portion of the story. And it just continues to be good, so that's what made it end up with 2 positives. Limblom effect, Crossbell feels is lived in. Not as much as it could be, admittedly. But admittedly, I mean, if it still feels like this is a place where people actually live, I'm not going to harp on that too much, you know? Good NPC chatter. Good gameplay story integration. Well, standard stuff, that's why I'm just blazing through all of this. Good use of the theme of finding your place in the world and seeing your value. I do like that. So, that's all the presentation. Now let's move on to the characters. Did I give Lloyd 3? I gave Lloyd 2. Alright. I like Lloyd. Okay? I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. I like Lloyd. Okay? I think he's a good main protagonist. Okay? I don't think he has the strongest team, like the strongest team of characters that I like in the whole series. Because, spoilers, I opted out of giving Ellie a positive in Azure. And I know some people, that's going to raise some heckles with some people. But I just felt like Ellie did not contribute anything to the story. And it really kind of felt like they dropped the ball with that in Azure. Because, especially considering how close she is to the Croises in both this and Azure, it really feels like Azure should be the one where she has the most, engagement with the main plot line. Spoilers. There is a point where in Azure where the SSS are all separated. She is the last of the original 4 to be recruited. To be re-recruited. Yeah. So, yeah. And then, of course, Lloyd continuing to be sharp. So, yeah, I like... so, anyways, to get back to Lloyd, I find Lloyd is awesome at being competent, resourceful, and I feel like while his character flaws are very similar to Estelle's, he definitely differs in all the right ways, which is nice. In other words, they are just the flaws of a Trails protagonist. So yeah, and then he just keeps being awesome, so I ended up giving him 2 pluses. Ellie! Okay. Now, I just spent I accidentally veered off into Ellie when talking about Lloyd. I do like Ellie in Zero, as I feel like her growth actually works in Zero. And I do like her character arc. It's just there's a lot of stumbling blocks with her. And I feel like her story, she should have had more of an impact on things in Azure. But it feels like Azure, all she does in Azure is continue to just comment on things. And that's it. It feels like there's no real growth for her specifically. In fact, it feels like a lot of growth, especially in being, a guardian slash, pseudo parent for Kia, falls more on Lloyd. Especially in Azure, and it's like, well, what the hell happened, It just felt like Ellie just kind of fell off the map, and it just doesn't work, in my opinion. But here in Zero, her characterization works, so I like it. She is more complex than she first appears, and I do like her character arc, so she got a plus for that. Tio, I love Tio. I love her technological skills, and she is honestly just enjoyable all across the board. Third, Randy. Now, Randy is awesome because I'll just go ahead and read my note about him here. Randy is awesome, and while it took him a while to get there, he really showed his complexity during and after the foot race, and reminded me why I liked him in Cold Steel 3, which was kind of one of the issues I was running into, because for a while in the story, I was just looking at Randy like, where's the Randy I know? Come on, man. Where's the Randy I know? And then the foot race happened, and I was like, there he is! So, by the way, I played Cold Steel 3 first, and have not gotten that far in 4 at the time of reviewing Zero, or Azure for that matter. So there you go. So Arios and his daughter each got a positive. I actually like Arios as a character, as it feels like he goes out of his way to be more encouraging rather than condescending. Right? Because his attitude about the SSS is, oh, they're green. They're incredibly green. They have potential. And then Shizuku is just awesome, and I love the fact that she is an example of disability not hampering you. And yes, and spoilers, she does get her eyesight back, and fuck yeah, she deserves that. Damn right. Although, having a character who's blind throughout her entire time in the series would have actually been interesting. But considering the character is, spoilers, it's through magic powers that it happens, asking the character who does eventually restore her sight not to, was just not in the cards. Let's be blunt. By the way, I'm going to try really hard to stay tight-lipped about spoilers for Azure, by the way. Which is hard to do, because that's where all the interesting stuff with a lot of these characters happens. Gah! Speaking of characters in Azure, Wald and Wazi. I actually like their dynamic. Right? I didn't think they warranted separate positives, but I did like them enough to give them a positive by themselves. That dynamic is going to shift in Azure, trust me. Oh, Lord. Wait, I don't even... I'm not even gonna say shit. Right, all I'm gonna say is I like Wazi more in Azure, and I hate Wald in Azure. Or, to be more accurate, I hate what they do with Wald in Azure. They character assassinate Wald in Azure, and that's all I'm gonna say about that. Estelle and Joshua, as a team, were positive, as the story doesn't focus on them, but I also like that because that's a good thing, because they don't overshadow the SSS. One thing I'm going to be saying a lot in the terms of these positives is the SSS are not overshadowed. They're not overshadowed. They're not overshadowed. They're not overshadowed. Which is funny because in many ways you could argue I should have been saying that. I should have said that in Azure quite a bit more, especially in Chapter 2. I mean, yes and no, because it kind of went without saying in Azure. But it was one of the big things I was worried about with Zero when I learned that Estelle and Joshua were in here. Because the idea is, are Estelle and Joshua just going to steal the show? Is this effectively just going to be Sky 4? The answer was no. No, this was still Crossbell 1. This was still Crossbell 1. They didn't take away from the SSS. Yes, but they did continue to show their growth. So, I like that. Ren is also here, and once again, she doesn't steal the spotlight away from the SSS. I mean, in a couple of scenes, she technically does, but remember, if you're saying technically like that, in that stupid way, then you're wrong. Though, to be fair, I mean, I do like that it's actually more a supplement to the SSS. Her growth is more of a supplement to the SSS rather than ripping the focus away from them. So, and I should make sure I'm still good. Yes, I am. Excellent. Then we've got a couple of minor characters that quote-unquote minor characters that I actually just enjoyed. Deputy Commander Bales, who we actually learned something kind of funny in Azure about her, which is, I won't spoil until we get there, but I just kind of like, I just kind of like that. You might even be able to pick up on it if you pay attention to her interactions with Sergei, and that's all I'm going to say about that. Then there's Noel. I like her enthusiasm, and I like that doesn't diminish her skills as a military officer. So, and she does actually get better. And she is just as good / even better in Azure, so that's good. Mayor McDowell is kind of awesome in his stubbornness, as the dude is literally willing to humor Ellie on her path. You know, oh, you don't want to be in politics? Okay, I will respect that decision. But the dude's stubbornness comes in when he wills himself to finish watching the end of the Ark and Seal play after Ernest tries to kill him. Dude's a trooper. Like, damn, dude. And we're talking a dude who not only recovers from that incident, but also goes on to deal with the trade conference in Azure. And cheers, Mayor McDowell. / Speaker McDowell. Cheers. Cheers, Henry. Cheers. Kia. Triple positive for Kia. Kia is adorable. She is charming, and in her own way, she's also badass. Now let me explain this one in a bit before we talk about the 5-daughter ruse thing. The reason I say she's badass in her own way is she has an obliviousness to her. What I mean by obliviousness is she's... How do I phrase this? Well, during the Schwarzschild auction, Bravache is chasing Lloyd and Lloyd, Wazzy, and whoever he brings to the Schwarzschild auction all throughout it. And Kia is not crying, she's not screaming that she's scared, none of that. And that's what I mean when I say she's badass. Because, now, granted, it's possible she's just oblivious to the danger, because there is some evidence of that. She's not entirely ignorant of everything, but you would be forgiven if you were looking at that and going, well, she's just oblivious. But that's also good, because it means we don't have to have a the typical, screaming scared child mentality, right? So, yeah, no, I actually absolutely adore her, and she is now in my 5 daughteroos, my quintet of daughteroos now. Hell, namely the 5-star daughteroo team, right? Of Tita, Altina, Milliam, and Una freaking Crawford. Now, admittedly, what's funny is you'll probably look at me weird, like, Una a daughteroo? I mean, yeah, I know it's weird. I'm weird, whatever, but let me put it to you this way: I can't. There is just something about Una that just, even if it wasn't a loyalty to Laura thing, I just would not be able to feel right about pairing Reen with Una. It just wouldn't work for me. Now, possibly that might be partially because I haven't gotten very far in Cold Steel 4, maybe, but it is one of those things where it's like, Then there's Chief Sergei. I absolutely love him. He feels like somebody who just doesn't give a shit, but that's a mask. Because, his mask is, I don't care. I'm kind of aloof. I will act like I don't care. Meanwhile, he cares a lot. It's funny because that's actually similar to the 12th Doctor over in Doctor Who, the one played by Peter Capaldi. You think he doesn't care, but no, it's the exact opposite. His character flaw is that he cares too much. And that works. Ian Grimwood. I like him. He very much... I like the fact that he's an informant and that he has resources, and that proves to be invaluable when the info he provides it doesn't seem critical, because a lot of times when Mr. Grimwood says something, it will seem like it's not really all that vital or all that critical, but 9 times out of 10, it's vital. And I like that. Because it's only when you start to think about the info he's giving you that you realize just how important it is. Then there's Dieter Kreuss and Maria Bell. Another example of characters who will get their own separate positives in Azure, but are joined positive here in Zero. Dieter Kreuss and Maria Bell are awesome and really show that not everyone with a high-end position is an asshole. Even if Maria Bell's protectiveness of Ellie is a bit much, honestly. I do like the opening. I mean, what am I saying here? The opening is nice and hints at stuff without being very spoilery. In the vein of Sky 3. You know what? Let's reword this. Unlike Sky 3. There we go. Because Sky 3 was spoilery as all hell. No, it just didn't work. I gave 2 positives to the intro, which is funny given the given Azure's intro. Azure's intro, but that's for later. I like it's great at establishing Crossbell, the SSS, and our four main characters, and their dynamics with each other. Even if we don't get much insight into Ellie or Tio, it also helps to show the difference between the SSS and the Bracer Guild, which is actually one of the overarching plot threads. So that's good. And it's also good from a more meta sense, because then we're not asking the question, how the hell is this group different from Bracers? Right? Because that is the question that the writers felt like they needed to answer. And that is a good question. In some ways, you could actually look at. You can also look at Class 7 in a similar vein. But considering what Olivier based Class 7 on, well, there you go. Harold Hayworth. I actually kind of like him. It's weird because Harold endeared himself to me without me even realizing who he was. I mean, the purple hair is a bit of a giveaway. But I honestly enjoyed his character. And I liked him right from the first meeting, right? Because he understands about keeping customers and suppliers both happy. In other words, he's not an idiot. So now we move on to moments. Lloyd and Ellie's heart-to-heart in Chapter 2 about her past is a great scene, and it really shows Ellie's struggles and Lloyd's good nature. Even if it does start a bad running gag of Lloyd apparently being an unintended womanizer. We'll get into that more in the negatives because, good lord, I hate this plot point. It was probably a funny joke back in the early 2010s, but in the 2020s, anyways, I also. Oh, and no, it's not funny. By the way, this running gag is also not funny. The whole unintended perv angle they take with this is not funny when Reen's the subject of it, or Joshua for that matter, because both have kind of had that. Although that's more of just him not understanding that it's multiple women wanting him more than anything. It's more naivete. I do like the conclusion to the threat letter arc, which is effectively the end of Chapter 2, I want to say. Hey, as I honestly kind of think it's awesome, and it shows the competence of the SSS in full swing, and that Zeit ain't just there for show, you know? Which is funny, given where I am at the point of the story I am in Azure. Let's just say Zeit is, kind of awesome in Azure, and leave it at that. Jesus. Why couldn't most of Azure be frickin' in Trails from Zero, and then like a whole game be centered around that final chapter? I honestly feel like that would have been better. So, Ellie's heart-to-heart with her grandfather, Mayor McDowell. Oh, well, this was the first time Mayor McDowell came into my notes, and then I retroactively added the positive for his character. So that's why I worded it this way. But anyways, this heart-to-heart between Ellie and her grandfather is awesome. And it honestly shows just how tough and wise he is. Mayor McDowell is. Because Ellie is looking at this like, okay, no, I need to quit being a member of the SSS, go into politics, and and assist my grandfather. And Henry's like, fuck no. You should stay with that's stupid. Stay with the SSS. It's the better decision. He does say it in a very stubborn way, much more eloquently than I do, which is why he's an actual, loved politician and I'm just some jackass on the internet. But you get my point. It's really, really good. And it really shows how wise he is by helping Ellie to see that, yeah, quitting the SSS, short-sighted move, because she'd be doing it out of fear and emotion rather than a calculated move. So, yeah. Then there's the full contact foot race section, which I love this section. There's just so much to love about this. Is Estelle whooping Wald, which is more of him flipping Wald, but I mean, who's counting? So Estelle being awesome, the quick thinking from Randy, the awesome moves during the race, the banter, and heck, even Grace is kind of awesome as the announcer. Easily up to that point, the best scene in the entire game. And then there's the follow-up heart-to-heart that Lloyd has with Randy after the foot race, which is awesome. Kilika showing up, and her coming out of nowhere and helping us catch the counterfeiter in that one quest is just awesome. I love Kilika, admittedly, and the fact that she, once again, was able to be awesome without overshadowing the SSS is awesome. My note about this says it all, right? She may have stolen the show, but the thing is that she only stole the show basically just right at the end of stopping the counterfeiter by tripping the counterfeiter. That's the only way she stole the show. And considering the SSS did all of the legwork, well, they were the ones that exposed the counterfeiter, and that's why, how it needed to be done. Because the SSS did most of the work, Kilika just helped them cement it, to finish it, right? Then Ren takes over the show. When she saves Colin, that is a great scene that shows Ren's growth from the Sky Trilogy. She doesn't understand what the hell she's doing in that entire scene. She even says it herself. I wasn't supposed to get involved. Why am I getting involved? What the hell am I doing? But the thing is, is that Ren cares. She does care. Estelle and Joshua got through to her. Tita too. The speech Estelle makes to her in Sky 2. The calling her out on her bullshit that Tita does in Sky 3. That final moment before she goes through the portal at the end of Sky 3. All of this culminates in this moment. And sure, if you haven't played the Sky Trilogy, this isn't going to mean shit to you. This isn't going to mean shit to somebody who hasn't played Sky 2 and 3. I have. And this is awesome. Oh, and best of all, once again, the SSS are not overshadowed. They help Ren with this. That's awesome. Because remember, it's the SSS that find Colin. And that's awesome. Then there's the triple positive I gave for the Hayworth's past. That is to say, the past of Ren's parents. It's pretty obvious if you pay attention and have played Sky 2, but honestly, yeah, no, it becomes pretty apparent when you stop and think about it, right? And they even flat out tell Ren, yeah, no, that is who that is, you know? It's beautiful, and it shows that Ren's abandonment was not black and white as one might think, as black and white as one might think. It was a mistake on the Hayworth's part, and they acknowledge that. To be honest with you, they hate themselves more than Ren could ever hate them. Because they failed. And that hurts. God, does that hurt. Beautiful. The entire Schwarzschild action section. I love the Schwarzschild auction section. It's tense, but at the same time, it offers a good amount of humor. It's a good balancing act, much like, it's a good balancing act. So the problem is that you may have noticed I didn't give a Devil May Cry effect positive. That is because how do I put this? The Schwarzschild auction just kind of feels like it's one of those things where it's like, there's a lot of humor to it, but it's actually a very engaging level of humor. And I just kind of like that, you know? Then there's the hidden side quest, A Treat for the Mayor. As I absolutely love it. It is comedy gold. Kia describing Mayor McDowell's face as cool. There's just something kind of awesome about that, you know? No? Cool is not what you would normally hear a kid, describe an older person as. But Kia's just like, oh, he looks cool. And I love that Mayor McDowell just kind of takes that as a, as a compliment, like, haha. The reactions from Lloyd and Ellie in my case, you can select who's with you in this chapter, so there you go. They're being so negative and Kia then enjoying the drink that they get for the mayor. I love that. It's two positives for that wonderful side quest. The intermission chapter in general was a triple positive for me. Good comedy, good establishment of Kia, and even a bit of character growth for Lloyd. And a bit more characterization for Shizuku as well. I like that. Oh, and I was laughing my ass off the entire time. But I'm particularly so. Yeah, best chapter in the game. Easily gets 3 positives. Let's be real. Then there's a solemn side quest, namely Flowers for Fallen Friends, which establishes the reach Lloyd's brother had, which is nice. Then we don't have anything until Tio opens up a broader past about being held by the D therefore G cult. That is such a heartbreaking scene, and honestly is well crafted in showing the bond between the SSS members, and I love it. Then there's Dieter Krois saving us when the Crossbell comes under attack. Heck, it was unexpected, but damn well, it was an unexpected but damn well welcome surprise. Then we had no more story positives until we got to effectively the penultimate scene, namely Estelle and Joshua catching Ren. And yes, I had to use this for this scene too. Estelle and Joshua catching Ren is such an awesome and heartwarming scene for me. Especially after all of the crap all three of them have gone through in Sky 2 and 3. Like, Jesus. It's just a nice cap off to that story. Do I wish it had happened in Sky 3? Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Do I wish my leg would not suddenly be itchy? Yes, absolutely. Neatly. But at the same time, it doesn't overshadow the SSS, and I like it. Which also leads us into a very heartwarming ending and just a nice send-off for the game. Despite the game's many, many, many flaws. Some of which are in the story. Only 66 positives overall. And by the way, I'm not even done with Azure, and Azure already has more than, and I'm not even kidding you with this, 35, has at least 35 more total story positives so far. Yeah. Let's get into the story negatives now. Yeah, I want Garcia to rip these fucking negatives a new asshole, so let's do it. Let's start with probably the most controversial one that, yes, by the way, spoilers, Azure has. The localization. It's lazy. Yes, it's translated, but there is no English dub. Now, I cut Cybersleuth slack for this. I did. But here's the thing. I cut Cybersleuth slack for a multitude of different reasons, and Cybersleuth still got a localization negative because of all the localization issues. So, and the reason I was more lenient on Cybersleuth's localization was for one simple thing. Cybersleuth was part of a franchise that in the West had been didn't have as much steam in the West, you know? So putting time, effort, and resources into a fully translated game, that was a risky venture. Now, some people could argue that was still, Bandai America being dumb, Bandai Namco being dumb, and you're free to. I'm not actually going to argue that. But I'm a lot more lenient on Cybersleuth because Cybersleuth was dipping the toe into the pool to see if Digimon was even profitable in any respect anymore in the West. Trails' sales figures were not that bad, have not been that bad in the West. In fact, I am actually going to bring it up because I'm pretty sure the wiki has those figures for me. So give me a moment to look it up. Let's start with the Sky games, shall we? You're not gonna tell me. Okay. Is there a reception? Yes. But it's not gonna tell me. Okay, never mind. I was gonna say... Hey, I was gonna look it up, but apparently... Okay, never mind. It's not gonna tell me. My point... The point I'm bringing up with this, though, is that the Trail series has had many games that have been fully localized, okay? And as far as I'm aware, they did not sell poorly, as poorly, but at the same time, it still felt like they really should have put the time and effort into localizing it, right? But they didn't, and it's kind of bad, you know? And honestly, I feel like... I just feel like you could have done this as kind of a double pack thing. It took them 15 months to localize this at minimum. And this is the localization they gave us. In fact, I gave Zero specifically 2 negatives for its localization because it really felt like the Zero's script especially needed another polishing pass. It looked like they just released Zero for the sake of having Zero released. And that's bad. Speaking of bad, I gave a triple negative to the flash forward. This is, of course, the scene that takes place in the final chapter. That's awful. That's dumb. Because you're literally giving us a snippet of the final stretch of the game. Why? They also pull narrative cheating, and we literally get no insight into the characters, even on a surface level. I basically just decided, 3 negatives, because seriously, that entire section was just a giant waste of the player's time and the developer's budget. Oh, and the fact that it lies not only in party size, but in events as well. Yeah. Like I said, narrative cheating. Vice Commander Pierre is probably the most petty negative on this list, but I hate arrogant twats and I do not pull my punches. He does absolutely nothing but be an asshole in all of the scenes he's in. Something that does not change in Azure, by the way. And we're given fuck all reason in any way, fuck all in the way of a reason to think that there's more to him than meets the eye. Like, I hated him in the prologue, as I feel like it was dumb, but the crap he pulled in Chapter 1 was just, nope, you're getting a negative, screw you. Then there's Yona, who is honestly... To be as nice as I can, he is not my cup of tea. He is arrogant, doesn't really earn that arrogance when speaking to the SSS, since it's clear as day that Tio can, and has multiple times with the IBC terminal and the Palm Party thing, and she played with him at the start of Chapter 3, outsmart him, practically in her sleep. And to top off this shit Sunday, he's also a brat. Yeah. Then there's Detective Dudley. Now, admittedly, Dudley is fine. It is fine in Azure. But here in Zero, he is so aggravating. He's arrogant, he's pompous, he's so fucking full of himself. There is literally a scene, and this is what just cemented the negative for him. Because I was actually debating him most of the game, and I was just kind of like, I don't like him, but, he could still squeak by being a wash. Then the scene I am about to describe in the note happens. Sergei basically says, practically word for word, filling them in will speed up your investigation. Now, he's referring to the SSS when he says this, right? Because he's had this chip on his shoulder that the SSS is not worth consulting. He should be consulting the SSS. And he continues that trend. He's like, no, I can't let these rookies in on this info. Even though Sergei point blank told him, filling them in will speed up your investigation. Like, fuck. And he and then he fucking hesitates. It's like, dude, can you trade out the fucking paint thinner you're guzzling for some actual brain juice? Like, come on. Ugh. Which just adds to the double negative I gave for the hitting problem that this story has. There's also I basically gave 2 negatives to the pacing, as I felt the pacing was just bleh. You know, I'm sorry, I will give negatives for pacing if it feels like it takes forever to get to the fucking point. And in a lot of ways, this story takes forever to get to the fucking point. I also don't like that the plot is all over the place and really doesn't flow nicely at all. There's some empty text issues, especially in the final chapter. My god. Can you shut up and get to the fucking point? There is some cutscene incompetence on display. It's actually kind of... It's actually worse in Azure, believe it or not. The cutscene incompetence is actually worse than in Azure, but that's just... ugh. Then there's fake drama in a few places where it really just feels like there should not be any kind of drama, and it's there in spades, and I'm just like, piss off. Alright, here it is. So, remember how I talked about how there was this subplot that I hated, this running gag? Well, here it is. The whole running gag of Lloyd being an unintentional womanizer is... I'm just going to read my note. The whole running gag of Lloyd being an unintentional womanizer is fucking stupid. I really don't find it funny, as it plays into the notion that if a guy is nice, he should be automatically labeled a pervert. And that's just fucking stupid. It was so stupid, and it actually continued to be a plot point for... Now, if it was just a couple of times, right? Like, let's say, you know, in some of the choir moments, they just kind of play this gag up a bit. In, say, you know, a couple of cutscenes like, oh, Lloyd's being nice to Ellie, that means he wants in her pants, or something like that, right? Let me put it to you this way. It was fine when it was Tio and Randy teasing Lloyd about it. Ellie was treating it as... all of Ellie's dialogue treated it as if he was... The way she was wording it was like... It was like Lloyd was walking around with his dick hanging out, and he never knew that and he never realizes that his dick is hanging out. I hate that. It's so stupid. It's so stupid in fact, that I ended up giving this headache of a plot point a full 3 negatives. Because, seriously, as my note is screaming here, why the fuck is it okay for Estelle to be this nice, and that's fine? Nobody claims that she's wanting to, you know, have sex with every fucking person in LaBeoul, but the second Lloyd does it, he's a perv? Like, fuck. See, now, and I know what you know, and as my note also preempts you on the obvious counterpoint. Olivier at least had moments where we were questioning his behavior and mannerisms. isms. That would and that kind of thing would lead you to think, okay, there's something up with Olivier, and he seems a little perverted. Like he was openly flirting with Joshua and Shara, right? And making kind of gross commentary about Otis Estelle filling out. So yeah, no, with Olivier, yeah, that kind of shit deserves a good whack, like Estelle gave him in that one scene in Sky One. Absolutely. But Lloyd has not done anything like that. He's just been polite. And that's why it angers me. Olivier was being a perv. Lloyd has been polite. Learn the fucking difference. Olivier's the perv, not Lloyd. Fuck. Ugh. Different song. Whatever. Ugh. Then there's the side quest Stalker investigation, which can go to hell because it exists solely to reinforce this stupid running gag, literally. And it's used to to shit all over Lloyd's reputation in Azure. So, yeah, that's why I was debating it being a triple negative. Admittedly, I don't think that's going to happen because the plot has finally gotten serious, and I think the narrative realized, oh wait, that gag would be pretty fucking inappropriate when the entire fucking world is on fire. But no, yeah, let's make stupid-ass fucking jokes that make Lloyd look like a goddamn pervert for being polite. Hey, eat for comedy! Time and place. Then there's the statewide overdue book retrieval, which is just more padding to the story and wastes our goddamn time. Then the worst side quest in the entire series happens. Originally, I wasn't going to give this one three negatives to story. Originally, because this was all on gameplay, as I will rant about in the gameplay section. But the side quest getting a new doll. Mostly because it is unsatisfying. It is in the sheer unsatisfying nature of the result of all of this. Of all of it. As all of the aggravation we will talk about when we get there just makes it completely unsatisfying. You know, nothing is advanced at all, right? I honestly think this side quest is more of a waste of time than the outro of Cold Steel 2. We'll get there. As such, as dickish as this is likely gonna read, I just stopped giving a shit. I really did. I just could not tolerate it anymore. And I just openly was like, no. It just pissed me off, and I gave it 3 story negatives too. That I mentioned before that Pierre was probably the most petty negative. Well, no, I'm pretty sure this one is actually the most petty negative in the whole of this. Then there's the assault on Saint Ursula. I really don't have a lot to say about this one, as it honestly just feels like a waste of time. And if the previous scene with Ren wasn't there, and neither were Stella and Joshua, her presence there would be just a complete waste of time. You know, I just didn't like it. The assault in the IBC is also badly paced. It's complete with a won the battle, lost the cutscene bit. No, seriously, did we really need Cal, Grace, and Lecter to comment on the fight for no reason? He's in and just deliver more empty text. And yes, I even include Lecter mentioning Osborn in that because, yeah. Because, like, in context, the only thing that reveals is, oh, Lecter really is working for Osborn. Which I'm just gonna shrug and move on. Then there's Dr. Gunter being the villain, which is just lame. He's literally just a raw cult leader with zero morals. Again, no pun intended. And no class. Weissman at least reveled in his evil, while Gunter just pretends like he's the best villain the series has ever had. When really, for me, he is the worst by far. And as I say in brackets, yeah, even worse than frickin' Gilbert. Gilbert, I'm supposed to see Gilbert as pathetic and irritating. I'm supposed to want to kick Gilbert in the balls so he'll get the hell off my screen. Gunter, I'm supposed to take seriously. Like, let me put it this way. I'm supposed to take Gunter seriously. I'm not supposed to take Gilbert seriously. I can't take either of them seriously, and that works in Gilbert's favor, not Gunter's. Triple negative for him. And a double negative for the outro. As, in spite of the good ending and the Ren scene, the Ren caught you Ren scene, I just feel okay, this reads actually way different without a comma there, so let's put a comma there. The outro, in spite of the good ending and the Ren scene, was overlong and frankly annoying, as it felt like it was meandering way too much, and it felt like it was dragging on and on and on and on and ugh, you know? So, double negative for that. So, on to the gameplay, and yeah, as you can tell by the lack of a number beside the gameplay positives, this heading, we ended on a net negative. Music got 2 pluses. Not a surprise, you've been hearing the music this entire video. So, yeah. Good variety, good use. Even though it's some of the song, it's weird where some of the songs are placed. I do still stick behind my good music direction positive though. Save system remains good. There's some good info in game as per usual, helpful NPCs as per usual. There's the good quest log that has been just as good as it has been good since Sky 2. The tutorials being skippable, even if they are a bit bloated. Good visual distinction. The exp multipliers, because this is effectively, as I say in the Wolfsten proper video that will go live next year, there's a lot of the this is basically a proto Cold Steel 1, and I love it. Case in point, the exp multipliers and the counters on miss as being 2 great examples. Azure will actually have a prototype of a mechanic from Cold Steel 2, actually. Specifically, Burst Mode being the prototype Overdrive, which is nice. So we still have the we still have the full heal and level up, which is good. The retry offset, which is now even on the game over. You know, in case you don't want to lower the difficulty, you don't have to finagle. You know, you can pick that on a per battle basis. In fact, you know what? Let's actually give that 2 positives. Actually, you know what? Since this is actually the best implementation, and this is the one they'll have going forward, alright, so, yeah, because the more I think about it, the more I'm like, wait, having it on the game over menu is actually the one thing that is just perfect. I actually like that. So yeah, no. Since this is the way it's going to work in all of the other ones, why shouldn't Zero get this, and Azure, and Cold Steel 1, and Cold Steel 2, and Cold Steel 3, and Cold Steel 4, and Reverie if it's in there? We'll see. I mean, I'll be finding that out probably in like 3 months. Like, at the rate this is going, yeah, it's gonna be at least like 3 months. Instead of streaming this, because holy crap, streaming these games. So there we go. I added a +2 modifier to this game's score, which kind of puts the VODs out of date, but whatever. As brakes are back and still awesome. Quality of life features are good. Combat interface is still nice. Combat interface isn't going to be able to get a triple positive until we get to the final, what I call the final battle arc, Cold Steel 3 and 4. Now there's an awesome battle interface, which incidentally is also the same, is a very similar battle interface to that of Persona 5, which is going to get the same number of, if I ever review that will also get a triple positive for combat interface. And yes, I mean that sincerely. But we can talk about that more when we get to Cold Steel 3. Sometime. I mean, in the near future, I hope. Good builds via the quartz. Good core combat. I like the core combat of the Trails series. Thank you very much. Good itemization. Decent difficulty and power progression curve. There is some annoying obnoxiousness, but yeah. Encounters are decent. The encounter design is also decent. There's some decent enemy variety. There's some decent flow of exploration. I also like fleeing. Fleeing was completely guaranteed in the Sky games, making it a wash, honestly. But here, you have a % chance to run, and it goes up with every fabled attempt, which means there is still, that risk of not being able to run, but it gets more and it gets easier and easier and easier to run, which is good. Cooking is back. It's as good as ever. I also like the fact that they brought in the whole party members having specialized capacities in cooking. Also, the cooking heals by percentage, which is what warranted this third positive. So food basically got 3 positives. The mini map, still wish it was in dungeons, but it's back and as useful as ever. The full map is also decent as it shows you the locations of high-level monster chests, so that's good. Here's where I put the gameplay story integration positive. Now we get into individual points in the gameplay. Lloyd vs. Wall 1v1 honestly was one of the coolest fights. I didn't like the first boss fight, but the 1v1 with Walt was awesome. And I enjoyed the hell out of it. The mini games in the casino, awesome. Fast travel does help mitigate the tediousness of running around the city. Even if, as we will discuss in the negatives, it takes forever for fast travel to be a thing, and it's not very good fast travel. IMO. The fight against the Guardian Force recruits, followed by Noel joining them in the second round. That was nice. I liked that. Even if Noel liked to inflict sleep. Enemies running away in fear. I love this. Ooh, that's a good point. I never tested that. Did I? Well, shit. So, as I keep talking about this, I like that enemies run away from you if you're too high level. It's one of those things where I honestly just really like that idea. As I honestly feel like that works for what it is, Because if you're too high level, either because you're on New Game Plus or you're in an older area, which is actually possible in this one, believe it or not, then yeah, you that helps, right? That actually really works. So, there you go. And so I'm just testing something to see if I'm adding a third positive here. So yeah, I actually really like that. I really like that if you're overpowered, enemies will run away in fear from you. That's awesome. So, yeah. Then there's Noel's S-Craft, Blast Storm, which, honestly, I love it. It hits like a truck, and is nice and flashy. I also like that resting at hotels restores CP, and that is awesome if you like your S-Crafts. The escape from the Schwarze auction is great. Does it really... It's not really battle heavy, and I love Kia being a support character during it. There's just something fun and cathartic about it. And I like that. And also enemies tend to ignore her. Tend to ignore Kia like the like the bus in that we'll be discussing in negative 21. So yeah. The fight with Garcia at the end of the auction section is awesome. It's hard, but it's more appropriately hard, as my issue was never really the high attack, but rather the need for to add status effects, which, to be fair, never really kind of came up in that fight. So that's nice. Then there's Regenkopf. I don't know how to say that. Hey, read that name properly. It's a good boss fight. He causes blind, but his defense and HP honestly feel fair, and I had taken half of his HP in like 3 S-crafts. Which, while sounding bad, is actually a step up from the rest of the game, let's be honest. And as this feels like the most fair boss in the entire game. So, there's that. Fighting Ernest, the first round with him, honestly felt fine. And for all the crap Demon Gunter gives me, it put me through. Yeah, I will say the final round against him was one hell of a Hyper Beam moment, and admittedly, there is some decent viscerality. So, that helps. Now, if you will give me a moment, we will see if I am adding an additional plus. I am. Alright, that's all I needed out of you. That's all I needed out of you, Zero. So there is one more positive that I will add, and then we will explain it. And that is right here. We'll add it right here. So, a little bit of Septive is the idea of being able to just kill enemies that would only give you like 1 or 2, it would only give you like 1 exp, is awesome. Dang it. Is awesome. And honestly, it's just kind of a beautiful time saver. God fucking damn it, game. It ain't. God fucking damn it. Ugh. It's an awesome time saver, and I love it. Point blank. Love it. So, yeah. We have now gotten this to be negative 29, because we have added 3 more positives. Excellent. Alright, so let's get to the negatives. So, let's start with the usual. This one gets 2 negatives for the Scaling Exp. I honestly feel like the scaling axe just becomes completely useless after a bit. It just gets aggravating. And I honestly also gave it 3 negatives because it honestly can screw you out of achievements, and that's kind of awful. So, yeah, specifically the one of getting through the game without hitting level 4, and that is just, bleh, you know. Enemies on the field are once again obnoxiously placed. They're annoying to dodge in most dungeons, which means if you're trying to avoid combat, good luck. Bullshit enough for 2 negatives, in my opinion. There is no mini-map in the dungeons yet again. That is a negative. I gave an audio spam negative. The tutorials are bloated and boring to slog through. Blah. And they're a little too rapid fire, especially if you're a Trails veteran. Team Rush is a nice idea, but the problem is that it's 100% at the mercy of RNG, and yeah, no. Grind is as obnoxious as ever, especially if you're going for 100%. It's fine if you're going for the beat the game under level 40 achievement, but it still feels like a grind. The gameplay pacing is pretty lopsided, admittedly, between running around and battles and the monsters on the field. It all just feels like it's there to slow you down. The game is rife with padding, gameplay-wise, especially with those side quests, which ended up warranting 2 negatives. The enemies causing knockback. I really don't like that. They love to annoy you with either moving out of the way of your S-crafts as an arts, or moving out of the way of your S-crafts and your arts, and it just gets really annoying, as well as moving you around the battlefield, which just makes fights last longer than they really should. Trash HP is once again too high. I gave 3 negatives for the accuracy and evasion issues. I don't like the first boss fight with all those slimes. I really don't. The game on the gameplay axis, I actually gave the intro a double negative because while the story beats are fine, good even, the flow of the gameplay feels like a goddamn slog. Which I also ended it at the end of the prologue, and it took me forever to get through the prologue, which was the other problem. It just felt like a lot of busy work, especially if you're going for 100% in some form. I was honestly wanting something more to happen from a gameplay perspective after roughly 7 hours. The brief stints of combat are not enough to avoid the feeling of slog, honestly, in my opinion, and it's much like, and I compared it to Kingdom Hearts 2, whose opening. The story beats are great, but if you don't give a fuck about all that, then it's boring. And for me, it's so boring, I gave it 2 negatives. And again, I stressed that this was gameplay-wise. I don't know why I felt the need to say that, but then again, I think it's just that I have no confidence in anybody's ability to read. I gave a negative for walkthrough-itis. I gave a negative for railroading, as it is really bad in the early game. I gave a double negative for backtracking, and a triple negative for fishing. Which is funny, because from where I'm standing, fishing is only a single negative in Azure, because it is the same system, and that is the reason. It's just a single negative in Azure. Why? Well, because here's the thing. I gave it 1 negative for it being bad, 1 negative for being required for 100%, and 1 for there being a story mission that requires it. Yeah, not a fan. Needless to say. Traveling around the city before fast travel unlocks is sloggy as hell because you have to do it all on foot and it's annoying. Oi. Also, I don't like traveling outside of the city. Even with the bus system, it still feels sloggy to me and oof. And they also don't even unlock that ability for you until a ways in. Then there's the fight with the two Gordians while you're trying to protect the truck. Their AoEs hit like a truck. They cause faint, and their defense and HP are just way too high. It makes it take a while to defeat. Even if you've been leveling. And they constantly summon ads too, which is the other problem. Those are two big faux pas for me when it comes to boss fights. They inflict all of the status effects under the sun, and they, inflicting status effects, and that's their difficulty, and summoning a bunch of ads, and that's their difficulty. Never fun. That was 2 negatives worth for that. Oh, and you also have to protect the bus. Not that ever really plays into things, because the monsters seem to ignore the bus, like, wholesale, and it's actually kind of funny. Or at least they did for me, but I figured I'd mention it as part of the problem. So, a lot of these are just going to be side bosses that I absolutely despise, so buckle in for that. The optional boss, Superior Mosquito, from the side quest Abandoned Apartment Cleanup, is honestly another boss fight that can just go to hell. Ellie and Tio being excluded for pathetic reasons, so it's literally just you and Randy having to go protect frickin' Wald. And they have to, and of course, if Walt dies, that's game over. Like, if Walt runs out of HP, that's game over. Yeah, another escort quest and a poison fetish. Oof. Just oof. Ugh. Also, it also cemented a status effect fetish negative, but let's face it, you saw that coming, and I'm pretty sure you saw it coming that this game is a triple negative for the status effect fetish. Because good lord. The vanish turn bonus. Ugh, I hate it. I hate it so much. It likes to show up very frequently during the higher element heavy dungeons. Even if that's the only time it ever really shows up. Also, the game's tendency to leave you without specific party members just doesn't feel as crafted as it otherwise should be. I don't like fighting the Dover Kaisers, the black dogs that the Mafia goons use in mains. I just don't think those are very good fights. The Nepenthes is from chapter 2 quest. They're bullcrap too. I'm gonna sound like a broken record with a lot of these. Too much HP, too much defense. Their defense is way too high, and they cause blind. Oh, and their AoEs hurt. Then there's the Farticus hordes in Chapter 2, which are just awful. They love causing faint, and they have way too much HP for what they are. Ugh. 2 negatives there. I didn't like fighting Yin. I felt fighting her was just obnoxious. I'm just gonna say her. her attacks are obnoxious. Her body splitting is obnoxious. We're basically just fighting low again. And it's like, oh, come on. Ugh. The bubbly scissor G's. Scissors G's. I don't like them. Take them. More status effect fetish. Ugh. The blade fangs. I do think the difficulty curve is fine for the most part, but there is the occasional spiking, like take the blade fangs. Oof. And then the high level monster chests basically warranted a negative and made me not want to deal with that. The many famous views of Crossbell is a side quest I don't much care for. It is interesting in its world building aspect, but gameplay wise, it's just a goddamn slog. Ugh. By the way, game, warning me that Grand Mole has poison claws does not change the fact that Grand Mole and his poison claws are goddamn annoying. 2 negatives for that. Then there's Blue Blanc, who doesn't have an on-screen appearance, but he does challenge the SSS, because he just has to have his side quest in games where his side quests have no business being. This is a mistake they will repeat on, excuse me. This is a mistake they will repeat in Azure, by the way. There's the padding negative for the statewide overdue book retrieval. Like, seriously, even from a gameplay perspective, that was kind of bad, and I didn't like having the Nepenthes G's that you fight during it, as that just felt like padding. The Creative Cooks Wanted requires peculiar dishes which are RNG based, and as established, I hate RNG being necessary for 100%. See also Legendary Angler Estelle. Oh, and it looks like we are done with that one. I guess let's go to my library, because I think all of these... what? Okay, need to minimize that one. Let's see. Okay. So, yeah. Don't like RNG being necessary for 100%. The Arc Devil fight, that was 2 negatives. Okay, so there's the fact that getting a new doll can be denied to you if you haven't been doing hidden side quests. In other words, if you don't have enough DP. I feel like that's just kind of dumb. Nothing should be locked from you unless it's just doing it as part of a quest chain, you know? Alright. Let's explain why getting a new doll was a triple negative from the gameplay perspective. So, the fight with the Till Dawn dolls and the Angel dolls from the side quest getting a new doll is the worst fight in the series, hands down for me. First, it is status effect fetish the fight. First problem. Second, the Till Dawn dolls are immune to physical attacks and reflect them. Being immune isn't enough. They have to also reflect them, which sucks. Third, The Till Dawn dolls all have elemental immunities, which means you have to hit them with a very specific element, otherwise screw you. Then there's the fact that the Angel dolls, those basic attacks, cancel your arts. Then there's the usual HP and defense issues for the 5th problem. Then there's the 6th problem, where there is no lowering the difficulty on this fight. And then finally there's the 7th problem. Did you use items and then lose? Well, guess what? Bye-bye items. Those are gone. They're used up. Because screw you. Oof. This one made me so angry that I was looking at this and going, I want to give this fucking, like, I wanted to give this, like, so many negatives. I wanted to give this, like, 10 negatives. Just straight up on its own. But I backed off because it was like, no. My max is, and always will be, 3 negatives. And this is the most unique you will probably ever see me be with these negatives. With these points. Ravache HQ, who I don't like. Ravache HQ is a dungeon. I just feel it has obnoxious enemy placement. It's got a lot of busy work and shutting off the electricity. And the enemies, once again, love their fucking sass effects. Ugh. Gameplay-wise, I did not like the assault on St. Ursula. The constant fight with the goons that heal themselves. And then there's the monsters when you make it to the research ward. It's honestly more of a pain in the ass than it should be. Then there's the repetitive nature of the assault on the IBC, which ends with a won the battle, lost the cutscene bit, which is just aggravating. Akamana is another boss that can fuck right off. High HP, high defense, status effect fetish, and constant healing. Healing with double turns to boot. The two Demonicus are badly designed in my opinion, though in a different, albeit still frustrating way. When you defeat one, the other will cast agility and regen on itself, making it so that you miss every hit and he heals every turn. Also, he renews it right when it's about to wear off. Yeah, that fight did not endear itself to me. That was a triple negative. Then there's the fight with the brainwashed Garcia. So remember how in the Schwarze auction I said Garcia didn't really rely on status effects? Yeah, when he's brainwashed, he relies on them a lot. It didn't feel like he was relying on beating you and having his beatdowns cause faint. But it happened here, and it was dumb. Then there was the first round against Demon Gunter, which I really freaking hate. It's an interesting idea on paper and would be fun if not for the status effect fetish that this game just loves to shove at you. And there's also the massive AoE that screams, "Oh, you think you're gonna win? Ha! Fuck you." I hate it. Then I also gave the outro a double negative. It is overlong, had way too many annoying boss fights, and was just straight up boring and sloggy, as well as having moments where the game just flat out cheats. Ugh. I hate the New Game Plus in this game, to segue into that. This got a triple negative from me. Hey. Oh, I guess Viscerality was a positive and a negative. Huh. Because I could have sworn I gave a positive to Viscerality as well. Let's double check that. Yep. So yeah, this is an example of Viscerality being a positive and a negative. Interesting. But anyways, so the New Game Plus in this game is just crap. In order to carry over all of the basic stuff, you need to eat at least 900 points, which I wouldn't have had enough if not for showing off all the outfits for the Schwarze auction. This is just straight up either be an achievement hunter, not like that, or get fucked. Triple negative. And I have a funny feeling that that's exactly how Azure is, so Azure's gonna get the same is gonna get the same amount of shit for that. Then I also gave it a replayability negative here, because I honestly feel the game actively intimidates you into wanting to do more to get more out of New Game Plus, and to me, that's just wrong. This is probably going to be an example of replayability positive and negative. I am willing to replay the game, but the fact that the game is trying to lure you into replaying it is going to suck. It kind of sucks. So, there you go. And with that, that's it. Let's find a better tone. This is kind of more of a lamentable song. I wanted to like this game more than I did. But as it sits, it's we have now moved it. We've moved it up from where it was, because it was originally a literal net neutral, complete net neutral originally. But now we have moved it up to +6. So that's crap. Like, I'm sorry. That is way too low, especially for a Trails game. And the reason I've been trying to get going on getting all of these ratings caught up on is because I just want to be done talking about this game. I have already recorded the Trails from Zero Wool Stand episode from my perspective, right? The only thing left for me to do with Trails from Zero now is to just edit that video, to edit together the Wool Stand episode. But there's some stuff I want to look into, I want to do, so I'm probably not going to be editing that for probably a couple of months, if I'm honest. But I think the biggest thing for me is I don't like Trails from Zero, and that hurts me. That hurts me more than I can ever describe. And that's a bad feeling. It's a Trails game. I want it. And I want to like Trails. I do. You know, I don't look at any Trails game wanting it to be bad, or even wanting it to be subpar like this one. Because I will say this, I don't think this game is actually actively bad. but it's got a lot of things that just annoy the piss out of me. And that hurts me in more ways than one. But that's it from me. I hope you've enjoyed my thoughts, and I will see you next time for Azure. Till next time, Blue Wolf Alex the Lore Walkers signing out. Have a good one. And if you decide to play Trails from Zero, I sincerely hope you have a better time with this game than I did.